You know who made it. You know who made it.
I'd like to present our first speaker, Dr. Randy Noblet. He is a clinical psychologist in private practice. He is has developed a lot of expertise, somewhat against his will, in the area of ritual and cult abuse. He's the author of a book to be published in August entitled Cult and Ritual Abuse, Its History, Anthropology, and Recent Discovery in Contemporary America. So without further ado, here's Dr. Noblet.
Some of you may be wondering, though, at this point, okay, mind control, what does that have to do with cults? Since that word is associated with the topic for this conference, I wonder how many people out there think that there are groups, cults, whatever, where they practice, let's say, harmful, deviant, black magic, Satanism, not witchcraft in the sense of Wicca, but dark arts, so to speak. I wonder how many people think that. And some of you might be wondering, what is the connection between cults, witchcraft, Satanism, so on, and the mind control that you're going to be hearing a great deal about from the finest experts on that subject here. And that's an important point. And I'm hoping that if we accomplish one thing in this conference, it is that we get a clear sense about what is the connection, because there is a connection. But actually, this is an old story. And it's a story of trauma. It's a story of slavery. It's a story of the complete annihilation of other human beings when you can get away with it. It's a very, very sad story and has a long history. We can hear about that story and read about it in old documents, such as the Bible. The Bible talks about children passing through the fire. It talks about horrible things happening. And, of course, many people may have just thought, well, that's kind of an interesting story. You know, what does it mean? What does it mean that Aztecs and that other Mesoamericans would flay people on an altar and consume their heart? What's that all about? Well, my argument is there's a thread that goes all through this. And if we want to go back in time, we can go all the way back to the worship of nature, shamanism, and so on. Trauma has always been viewed throughout history as a way of creating altered states of consciousness. Trauma, there are a variety of ways to create altered states of consciousness. Obviously, you can meditate. You can do hypnosis. You can listen to drums pounding, and they'll kind of carry you off, and they'll drift a little bit. But nothing really exciting happens. Nothing very impressive happens. It's my belief that many, many years ago, people learned that if you traumatize a person in a certain way, you can create the God that you worship. And so for that reason, many early religions, many very old religions, included trauma in their worship. In fact, there's a book out, some of you may have seen it, it's called God is a Trauma. And it's particularly about some of the Gnostic traumatic practices that went back into ancient times. We can carry this back even further than, say, the ancient times, ancient medieval times, back to, again, shamanism. Now, it's hard really to understand shamanism in detail now, the ancient version, because, again, many of these practices are pre-literate. We have no way to know exactly what people did. We just see these examples, for example, in the Mayan temples, and we know that these buildings were probably used for these purposes. But it's a little easier to understand it if we look into the shamanistic practices of modern times. For example, I wonder how many people here are familiar with the sun-gazing dance, or the sun dance, as it's called. Some of you are, okay. Well, this is still practiced in North America. Some of you may have seen the movie that came out some, I guess, 20 years ago, A Man Called Horse. And in the movie, I thought it was totally fictional because I didn't think you could ever get anybody who would agree to be lifted up with hooks stuck in their pectoral muscles. I didn't figure a big line would establish with people waiting to do that. And I assumed it was totally fictional. But as it turns out, I was doing some reading on shamanism, and I read a modern-day account. I saw photographs of them doing the sun dance now, the sun-gazing dance. Again, the idea is very simple. And I'll be talking about this more when I get into more programming in particular. To me, this is where programming begins, where people perhaps learned accidentally that the use of trauma and other kinds of ritual acts can produce dissociated states, can produce dissociated identities. That is, you can produce the deity. And many villages may have wanted to have their deity there, and it may have been a great honor for some child to go through these horrible procedures so that the village could have their deity right there with them. Well, through time, these practices passed through some changes, but not a whole lot. Many of you are probably aware of the mystery cults that existed around the Mediterranean during the ancient and up until the medieval times. Many of these involved traumatic rituals as well. And so now we have many people making allegations that some of the modern day remnants of these mystery cults, that is the fraternal organizations of modern times, engage in this kind of behavior as well.
Voici un document rare montrant le 33e degré Henrik Lawson affirmer face caméra que le rite maçonnique écossais est la continuité directe des antiques cultes à mystère, tout en nous confirmant, chose extrêmement rare de la part d'un franc-maçon, que ces cultes à mystère se sont vautrés dans la sorcellerie et les pratiques orgiaques.
The modern Scottish rite of the mother jurisdiction has found the keys to esoteric knowledge, and therefore it is the direct, true descendant and the survivor of the ancient mysteries. We pursue, preserve, and teach the ancient wisdom and esoteric knowledge. The Scottish rite of the mother jurisdiction, on the other hand, retained, reinforced, and expanded both goals, societal and spiritual. But we also search for an ultimate mystic union with the deity, and for that purpose we reveal and apply in our degrees from the 4th to the 33rd the ancient wisdom, esoteric knowledge that comes to us over long, drifting centuries. The powers, forces, and energies can be discovered if we search deeply enough. They were to be found in all parts of the world, such as the mysteries of Isis and Osiris in Egypt, the Mithraic mysteries of the Persians, the Orphic and Bacchic and later Eleusinian mysteries of Greece, the mysteries of Samothrace and Chaldea, the mysteries of India, the Druidical mysteries, the Gothic and Scandinavian mysteries, and others. The ancient mysteries later fell into a perverted decline and were replaced with the ceremonial sorcery, incantations in lieu of divine magic. Also were filled with indescribable practices in the orgies of Bacchus.
J'affirme qu'aujourd'hui, bon nombre de frères de loge se vautrent également dans les pires pratiques occultes, notamment sorcellerie, pédosatanisme et sacrifice de sang. En interne, les grands maîtres connaissent pertinemment l'existence de ces arrière-loges aux infâmes pratiques initiatiques. Embourbés dans le culte du secret, il est devenu difficile, voire impossible pour la secte maçonnique de nettoyer la crasse des caves et d'en former le monstrueux égrégore.
In any case, there is a clear connection between the use of trauma in a ritualized manner and the development of dissociated individuals, the individuals that are coming forth that we're seeing nowadays clinically. We also will have some mothers who are protective mothers who are doing their best to try to protect children in extremely abusive environments, and they're finding out that the government who is supposed to protect them is doing just the opposite. We'll have time to talk about that as well. This is one of the great tragedies, is that something horrible is going on, but the people that we all should be able to trust to help us don't seem to be doing their job. And that is why it is my belief that we must have a citizens movement to correct this terrible wrong.